today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a sketch illustration of Kakashi from Naruto. Okay, so to start it out, we're going to want to draw a T shape. Then once you have that T shape done, you're going to want to draw a circle. So you do lines. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is just to help us get the rough idea as to where the center of our head is going to be. So then you should have that. Now, once you have your circle, you're going to want to draw lines on both sides. And like the circle, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just to help you get that rough sketch lines to help set up for the regular face. So now, from here, you're going to want to go down like that, make these lines a little bit thicker. Now, from here, take it and go down, kind of like that. And then you're going to want to do that on this side also. Don't forget, it's always good to use an eraser. Okay, so you should have something that looks kind of like this. Now, for Kakashi's face, we're going to start with his nose. So you draw a line there. Then you go down like that. Probably a little bit shorter than mine. And then kind of a curved line there, so that you have something that looks somewhat like a nose. And then now, we're gonna do his mask. So you're gonna want to do this. Okay, now let's go ahead and clean up our rough sketch. Okay, so once you clean up your rough sketch, you should have something like this. If you need more time to clean up your rough sketch, just pause the video. So now we're going to do the rest of his nose. So he has that bump there, right? And then now, because he's squinting just a little bit, and then we're gonna want to draw the line going across for his headband, just so that we have that mapped out for later. And we aren't drawing the eyes where the headband should be. Now, we are going to draw the eyes. So, for the eyes, it's just a very simple eye. Like this. You can also put the pupil wherever you want. But, see, like, the eye needs to be a little bit more slim. I made mine too wide. Now you have a scar. And then you're going to want to erase a little bit of that face mask to where his scar is. You just do this. Now, to draw the pupil, it's a line, like 2 half circles, and then 1 more smaller half circle, or 2 more smaller half circles. Now, we want to shade in the eye a little bit. And now we're gonna add some detail around the eyes. So here, thicken up the top part of his eye, and then his eyebrow. So you draw like a little curve with a line, slanted line, and then it goes like that, and down, and like that. So now the right side of your face should kind of look something like this. Okay, now we will do the neck and then the ears. So for the neck, it's just a line down with a little slanted line at the bottom, and then it's pretty much the same on the other side, but you only go down to here and then add some of that shoulder in. Now to add in that shoulder on this side, you just do something like the other side. Now, the one thing I should probably address before we move on is that you can always adjust his jawline if it doesn't feel right to you, just by looking at it. So like, I think I'm going to keep it how it was, but you can always adjust it when you need. Don't forget you can pause the video if you're falling behind and catch up. So yeah, you should have something like this before we move on. So now we're going to draw the ears. First, you're going to draw little lines here. And then for your ear, you're going to want to start out like that. Take that and then go down with it. So then you should have something like that, and then you erase if you have extra lines there. Now, you're gonna want to add some detail in the ear. Ears don't have to look perfect, just as long as they look like an ear. Now, you shade in that ear, and boom, you have the ear and half of the face. Now, you can tweak stuff if you need to before we move on. Now we're going to do the headband, but first we're going to clean up our rough sketch. So all you had to do to clean up your rough sketch was just erase that top of the circle part. Now, you're going to draw the headband. The headband is fairly simple. So you go up, kind of slant it in, and then slant it out. And then do that on both sides. Now, you're going to go to each end and draw like a little bump. And then connect those two bumps. You may have to erase a little bit of the eyebrow, which is totally fine. You just have to connect those two. Okay, so now once you have those two lines connected, you're gonna connect the top ones and add a little bit of curve to it, and you should have something like this. Now, we're gonna do what we did on the bottom, but on the top. And then just connect those two lines, and then we will be almost done with the headband. And then you can always clean up the inside of that headband if you need to. And the reason I'm flipping my paper is because sometimes it's easier to get the angles. Yeah. So now, we're going to draw the metal part on his headband. So, it's just two lines, and then connect those two lines. Now, you don't have to do this wrinkle part, but I prefer to put a little wrinkle over a part of it. See, so now you have a wrinkle covering part of it. And then it has that symbol on his headband. So the symbol is like a triangle with a swirl and a line at the end. So like that. And then you can darken that up if you want to. I prefer to darken my lines up. It's nice. Dark. There we go. So now you're going to add a little bit of detail onto that metal part of his headband. So you're going to draw the screws, which is probably the easiest part. It's just circles. Now, if you want to add scratches, you can, but just add that little line there to make it look more 3D. And then add another one here and here. Now you can shade that in, but make sure under the fold you get darker. Now you'll most likely notice that some of your detail lines have gone away, so you can just rehash them. And then there's this trick, it's called smudging. You just take your finger and rub the graphite with it, and it'll kind of spread around some of that shadow. And so now your headband should look something like that. Okay, now we're going to do his collar. Actually, we'll do his hair first and his other ear. So it's the same process as the last one. So something like that. Then you just erase that end. You can always shorten the ear if it doesn't feel like they're even. Then you do that. Also, I'm just doing this with the regular school pencil because you don't need fancy things to be able to be good at art. It's just skill. Now that that's done, you can shade in your ear, just like on the other side. Okay, so now we have to do Kakashi's other eye. So it's fairly similar to the last one. We're gonna start with the eyebrow. So, and then just up, down, and then back up a little bit. And you can darken up that line a little bit if you want. And so, you should end up with something looking like this. Now, his right eye is going to be closed. So we have to add that detail for when it's closed, the wrinkles in his skin. So for his eyelashes, you go like that. And then you just thicken that up a little bit. So now, you want to make sure there's plenty of room between the eyebrow and the eyelashes. So now you have this. You're almost done with this side. There. And then we'll freshen up these lines. Okay, so now you should have something looking like this. Now for his hair, you're going to go from the edge of here down, and then erase whatever's there, and then do that. Now for the other side, you're going to do the same. So now it should look something like this. Then his hair is like fairly simple. It's pretty simple, but it's just a lot of spiky lines and stuff, so you don't want to take it down. Sometimes you're gonna have to erase whatever's in that hair, like that, and then do a short one. And his hair doesn't have to look perfect, but you have to make sure the edge of his hair is like nice and spiky. Otherwise it won't look quite like his. Okay, so then he has some hair kind of coming out of the back of his neck, off of the back of his neck. So we'll do this hair like that and that. And you can add a few extras if you want. Now, we have to add the other hairs. So kind of like this. Okay, so now that we have most of that side done, we're gonna do some of this side. The closer the hair is on this side to the headband, the shorter it needs to be. So it should kind of get longer as it goes. And you just want to make sure you can really not see those lines that you did on the rough sketch. It'll make your drawing look a lot more clean and organized. So now you should kind of have something that looks like this. And then we're going to do some detail in the hair. So you can do the details however you want. You don't have to exactly copy me. Okay, so once you have that detail in the hair done, now you're going to move on to the collar. The collar is kind of hard for beginners, just trying to figure out those angles. So really pay close attention to what I'm doing. There. So now you have most of your collar, because now we have to do the other side. But before we do that, we'll add a little line in here, like that. Now, you're going to want to kind of do that same thing on this side. Just erase whatever's in there, like that. There we go. There, so now you should have something like that. now we're going to do the detail on the neck. It's fairly simple. Just the usual hatching. And then you can take a darker pencil if you need. For some reason, these school pencils are the same, supposed to be the same darkness, but like they're both 2HB, but one of these is darker. Oh, shoot. So now you're just gonna smudge that in and then work some more graphite into there. Now he kind of has like that on his neck, so then you can smudge that too, because the graphite from the line will kind of naturally add shadow if you just smudge it. And then his shoulders go like this, so you do some hatching, and then if you really want to get it dark, you can cross hatch it, if you know what that means. If you don't, cross hatching is like you go line, it's like drawing a tic-tac-toe board, but multiple times. So now we're going to finish his shoulders. So like this. And now we are missing something, which is his mask. We haven't colored that in yet. So we're going to put a little bit of shading behind his nose. And notice there should still be some graphite left on your finger. You take that and you do it behind his nose there. So, I accidentally drew my page. But so that you kind of get the shadow, because if you were to look one way and the sun's on the other side of your face, there would be shadow coming off. So now, just going to take it and lightly color it in. And then you're going to want to smudge it, but make sure you smudge it with the way that you did it. You can go against it sometimes, like I'm going against it a little bit now, because I'm using a darker pencil, but if you're using a lighter pencil, you have to go with it. See, so I kind of lost these lines from his nose, so you can just put those back there, and then reshade in behind his nose, and you should have something that looks like this. And then we can add a little bit more detail to the edge of his collar, to the inside of his collar, because that would be darker. But yeah, you should be getting pretty close to done. And then if you wanted to do this with colored pencils, you could skip the shading part and just kind of keep it how it is and then color it later. But don't forget to sign your artwork. And yeah, have a good day.